storm. All right. So working with Baal. Baal is a storm god. I have used that same metaphor so many times. Like I'll be standing there, I'll be doing my work, and then the storm hits and it fucks up everything in my life. And I just got to stand still and wait for the storm. It's like circles around me. And I'm waiting for the storm to calm down. And everything in my life is just up in the air. And I'm not sure what I'm going to keep and what I'm going to lose. And the best thing I can do is just breathe and stand still. What I've realized in working with Baal is that the storm is not something that's happening to me. It's something that's happening through me. I am the fucking storm. I am the storm that changes everything in my life. The people around me, the events that are happening, the circumstances, the businesses, all of these things are manifestations of my own self that are happening. And so as soon as I stopped seeing the storm as something that was happening to me, and instead something that was happening through me, then it got to be an aha moment of, okay, now it's not a matter of waiting for the storm to pass, because for people like you and me, we are the storm. The storm will never pass. We are a force of nature that is in this world, that's changing everything. Now, that being said, not everybody has that. Not everybody has what it takes. Some people are going to get destroyed in this process. And I've seen it happen. I'm seeing it happen today. I'm seeing it happen with people getting just completely demolished by this process. Let's talk about that. What do you think the difference is? Some people will say it's an RNA, DNA thing. Some people have different concepts about what makes that difference. What's your thought?
In my mind, I've always said that if you've been pulled to the occult, now I was basically born into it. And I had no idea I was born into it. That's the funny thing about it. I always felt myself as a weird kid, being young. When I would go into a library with my cousin, he would be reading comic books and he'd be reading all different things. And I would be just pulled to the weird sections of the library. And I would just be pulling out books, witchcraft, demonology, chakras, astral projection. And I was pulled to it from the age about a very young age, about 7 years old. I mean, I'm a 7-year-old reading this stuff. I started learning about candle spells. I started buying candles, started doing that. I started doing the Ouija board. I started doing all these things. And my mother caught me one day. And she walks in on me and she says, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, something I read from a book." And she just walks out, very nonchalant. She didn't really care. I keep doing this a couple years down the line, and I'm doing full-blown rituals, and I've got an altar to set up. And my mother walks into my room one day, and she just hands me this black candle, consecrated candle, and she gives it to me. And I'm like, "What's this?" She's like, "For your rituals." Now, I didn't tell her what I was doing at all. So I was like, okay. Turns out that when she was born, when she was carrying me, she was heavily into demonic work, very heavily into demonic work. Now, I wasn't aware that she was even doing any of these things, But yeah, my mother did it. What's really funny was my ex-partner that I was with, she was doing it. Her mother was doing it. So our daughter, she's got everyone in her family that does it too. And I can see that she's following suit as it is. But now, I was pulled to it for a reason. It wasn't a materialistic thing. It wasn't like, my life is going terrible, I want to fix it. I was just pulled to this. So what is very interesting is you ask, is it something to do with DNA? I think it's more to do with your destiny, your purpose. Are you destined for this? Are you destined for greatness? If you are, you'll feel that pull towards it. It could be a genetic thing. It really could. It really could be a genetic thing. I mean, but to say that I know, I'd be lying. Do you know what I mean? Because none of us really know that. Right now, it's all up to theory. I mean, yeah, it was part genetics for me, but it was also something else.
You got a couple models of how things work, and as above, so below. So the bigger picture is always going to be modeled on every scale, and so we can see, for instance, the theory of the Big Bang, right? So everything started in a singularity and expanded from that. That's one way of seeing things. Terence McKenna presented a separate idea, which is that there's a singularity that exists forwards in time, something in the future that is pulling us towards it. It's not like we were shot out from the past. We're being pulled towards the future. So the question of, is it your DNA? Well, that's kind of like looking at the same thing. Well, Your DNA is something that was formed in the past during consummation with your parents, and that you sprung forth out of that, and that creates you to be who you are. But you're presenting the opposite. You were actually being pulled forward by a forward attractor in time, by your destiny, who you were to become, and that is the single thing that's going to make the difference in whether a person does achieve greatness. Is if they can lock onto their purpose. What is your purpose? If your purpose is just to get through the day. I mean, you'll get through the day. You'll get through the day just fine. You'll make it through the day. You'll make it to the next day until you stop making it through the next day. But if your purpose goes beyond that, it goes beyond even your life, and you're going to create a legacy that's going to last for generations. It gives you a different kind of perspective and a different kind of fire. One of the things that I do in my daily ritual, every morning I wake up, and before I do anything, before I work out, before I take a single drink of water, before I do anything, I do this ritual. And a part of that is to lock onto the pain. I am here for a purpose. It's not an if. I am here for a purpose. And I've kind of identified what that purpose is, but that's always going to change and evolve as I change and evolve. I'm going to understand that purpose better. But if I don't step up, if I don't live my purpose today, who am I going to let down? And so I'll look at my daughter first. I'll keep it close first. Look at my daughter, my girlfriend, my the things that are around me that I care most about, the people that I'm going to let down. Because if I fail, look, for me, standing still is moving backwards. If I'm not moving forwards, I'm moving backwards. And so I can't just float on doing good. And so I really lock onto that. Then I push it out from me even beyond there. What about my audience? My audience, I know the quality of life change that people experience through getting their hands on this is second to none. There is no other path that I've ever seen that creates this kind of personal power and this kind of personal responsibility. And so my audience is going to be let down if I just fall away. If I just fall into my pattern is drug addiction and sex addiction and just falling into these habits of completely numbing myself out. If I do that, first off, my audience knows it right away. If I get on a podcast, people are like, "Oh, dude," they can identify exactly what drugs I'm on. People know it. They can feel it. They can see it. And then if they see that repeatedly, they can go, "Oh, dude, this dude's slipping. See how he's slipping?" And then that gives other people permission to slip, to slide, to just go back on their own ascent. And so if I don't set that example, if I don't set the tone, then I'm letting everybody down. And then I extend that even beyond that. What about the people who haven't even met me yet, who haven't even come across my shit yet? What about the people that are going to be affected by the people that I've affected? Like the ripple effect goes out and out and out, and you kind of lock onto that and go, it changes your perspective. Because then it's not just about, let me see if I can use this spell to get some more money. No, dude, getting more money is easy. Getting more money just flows to you as soon as you lock onto what your purpose is. Your income is going to follow your impact. As you have a greater impact, your income is just going to take care of itself. You don't need to worry about that. And like for me, dude, I can be homeless and I know I'll have everything I need within a year. I'll have more than I have now, because it's not about the paycheck. It's not about the money. It's not about the reward. It's about the impact. And so yeah, those are a couple key things that have been installed in me. I want to talk about Beelzebub for a second, because that was the hardest of the gates for me. That was the absolute hardest. Beelzebub teaches certainty by instilling doubt. I have never experienced more doubt in my life than the times that I've worked with Beelzebub. Then he's not going to come and comfort me and tell me it's all right and tell me I'm on the right path. He's going to come and make me ask those questions myself, make me have to figure it out for myself. It did come with questioning, like, is this all bullshit? Am I bullshit? Am I a fraud? Am I a charlatan? I might be. I've got to struggle with that. And I had to struggle with that until I knew for certain, no, I'm the real fucking deal. And here's the truth of it, brother. We are in a line of work that is filled with snakes. We are in a line of work that is filled with charlatans. Most of the people, the job that we do are bullshit. Most of them are frauds. Most of them are trying to steal your money. And so to be a person who is a real deal in this kind of business is fucking tough, because then you're measured against everybody else out there who's a fraud. And it's easy to get into that wondering, to go, well, wait a minute. if I'm in a business full of frauds, am I a fraud? And to really have to grapple with that. That was my personal experience, was to really have to grapple with that. Some of the craziest supernatural shit where I'm sitting at a table meditating with Beelzebub, and I start seeing objects on the table that start sliding off the table as if it's leaned at an angle. And it's not, it's just flat. And shit like gravity starts doing shit that it shouldn't do. I start seeing and experiencing the walls shifting, bending, and melting in front of me. Other people that are seeing it and experiencing it that aren't even in the occult, they're going, what the fuck is happening in this house? And getting to a point where it was clear, it's very clear, there's no doubt at all that this is very real, that I am who I say I am. And that's actually a heavy weight. That's actually a heavy weight. If I am who I say I am, dude, that means that I can't fuck around. I got to take this shit seriously. So with you're working with Beelzebub, what were some of the things that you encountered that kind of had to make you kick it to the next level?
Damn, man, you just hit the nail on the head right there. I mean, the hardest working was Beelzebub, most definitely for me, 100%. I mean, he took me on a journey into hell itself. Literally tortured me. Now, I've never had this with a demon before. Now, I've gone through pain with demons, I've gone through hell, I've gone through deaths, I've gone through rebirths, but I've never actually gone through a full-blown torture, you know, that I can actually feel pain. And this pain radiated outwards. Now, I believe when I first started working with Beelzebub, I emailed you and I told you about, you know, since I've been working with Beelzebub, my physical health is, you know, just going backwards, man. It's going back on itself. Through the entire path working, man, I was sick. For the entire path working. The sickness went away as soon as I learned what Beelzebub was trying to do. He was like, yeah, that's gone now. Emotionally, I was decaying. Mentally, I was decaying. I mean, I was just, my life and myself was just decaying very rapidly. Through this, I encountered a very strange state where I just thought, fuck it, I'll just let everything decay around me. I will decay and I'll melt into the decay and I'll become a part of that pollution. Now, here's what's interesting though, is through this path working, I thought, right, this is such a decaying path and such a polluted path. Afterwards, I'm going to have to do a lot of cleansing. I'm going to have to do a lot of this. No, Beelzebub was like, no, you got to become that disease. You have to become that pollution. That doubt, that negativity that's in you, don't see it as something that you have to fight against. Actually embrace it, and then you can overcome it. Embrace it and then overcome it. You know, in the Beelzebub work that I was doing, he was teaching the importance about toxicity. Now, being through the occult and doing black magic for God knows how many years now, I've been cleansing myself, my aura, my chakras, my subtle bodies, the house. And he's like, no, you ain't got to do that anymore. Here's another approach. Embrace your toxicity. Embrace the rotten soul that you really are. You know, and as I did that, I started to think to myself, well, everything that I think about myself that's negative, why am I fighting against that? Why am I going back into the repetitive stage of resistance all over again? Just flow with it. Flow with that sickness, flow with that pollution, and see where it takes me. And then it took me to a stage in my life where I was like, okay, so if I am truly what I used to think I am, if I'm worthless, if I'm nothing, then what do I want to become? And then become it. I mean, the way that I see Beelzebub is he is a disease. He is that black swarm that just swims into all of existence and just defiles it. But through that defilement, there is a transmutation where he can destroy as well as create. If he can defile, he can purify. You know, if he can weaken, he can strengthen. And that's what he done. First, I had to experience the negative. I had to experience the doubt to then have clarity of my potential. I had to experience the decay and decrepit to then experience my full vitality and my full strength. And the way through that was torture. It was torture. Going through every single bad thing I've ever been through, repeating 1,000 times over. I mean, difficulties that took me years to get over. And then Beelzebub was just like, yeah, you can have all that back, you know, ramming it down my throat. So it was painful to say the very least.
Yeah, grappling with the self. There are there are aspects of my life and my being. All right, so before I had my daughter, I was living underground. I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't have a bank account. I was I'd have jobs, but I would always work off the books, and then I'd make money selling the guns or selling drugs or whatever. But completely underground. Like people think I'm like a wild bad boy now. It's like, no, this is me being good, me being very, very good. And with that, I got dark. I got very, very dark. My sexuality got very fucking dark. My personal relationships were all very dark. I lived in a world of dark. And when I had my daughter, I kind of had to put a hold on all that. Okay, I gotta not be that guy. I can't be that dark person because I can't raise a child and be that dark person. Working with Beelzebub, that all got reawakened. Every last bit of it got reawakened. It was like, no, you've been denying a massive aspect of who you are. And it's like this dark warrior is inside of me. And this dark warrior has been just chomping at the bit, waiting to destroy whatever it can. And that's something that I put on the back burner. And because it was unconscious, it was destroying me. It was destroying my relationships. It was destroying me. And I could even see my health. Dude, my health, since working with Beelzebub, I have never been stronger. I've never been healthier. And a part of that is that I'm now working in collaboration with my own dark warrior. That I'm not denying it anymore. I'm not suppressing it. And I can tap into it. But what I've had to learn is that that dark warrior is like a snake. And if I just let it out, it's going to be like a baby snake that just releases all of its venom. And you don't need all of it. You just need a little tiny bit. You just need to let it, you open up the shutters and just let a little bit of that darkness out, and it can do amazing things. If you let it all out, it'll destroy you. And that's one of the lessons that Beelzebub does teach is understanding how wide to open the door. You can't just fling it open because you're gonna fucking, or you can. I mean, actually, that is what he teaches. He teaches you. He flings the door open and teaches you the horror of your own power. And then he shuts it again, and then he opens it up a little slower, and then shuts it again, and so it does teach you that toggling effect and bringing yourself to a point of knowing how to control your own power, how to not be a baby snake, how to be. Actually, it teaches you wisdom through like this crazy, really this crazy destructive power that. And I'll tell you what, it will absolutely fucking destroy everything in your life if you're not careful.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's interesting, like, working with each gatekeeper and going through each gate, the way that I've seen it is, it's like you are taking on that spirit, and you are taking all their qualities as well as all their powers. Now, what's very interesting is, especially for us doing this work and going into it with the intensity that we're doing it, we are actually becoming those gatekeepers. You know, when I'm working with Bilal, I embraced the fact that I was the worthless one. I embraced it, man. First off, I thought that's a negative thing. I don't want to be worthless. Who the fuck wants to be worthless, you know? But then when I went into it, I was like, no, if I'm worthless, that means I'm rock bottom. That means I'm starting from scratch. That means now I can be who I want to be. It was the same with Amаймon, man. You know, he teaches dark glory. He teaches your own glory. But you've got to know you can't be worthless all the time, and you can't be walking around with a chip on your shoulder, you know, thinking you're the most glorious person in the world all the time either. And that's the thing that I noticed with these gatekeepers, is that each and everything you have to kind of control that aspect of yourself. When I was working with Asmodeus, while I was working through that, my sexual peak, just, you know, I thought it was here. Fuck no, man. It's up here. It was to the point where, you know, a sex addiction was definite. It definitely ensued. And from that, I was like, okay, this is great. This is fun. You know, also I'm getting power from it, and I'm learning different things about sex in general. But I can't be having sex, you know, 24/7, because otherwise I'm not going to be doing it. So, like you said, we open the door, and then we experience it all at once. We open that gate and we experience the totality of the gatekeeper. And then I think that once we've passed that gate, we can tap back into that, you know, I can be that disease when it's necessary. You don't want to be a disease 24/7. You know, you can also be that black star state with Lucifer. You know, knowing all, being all, expanding into everything. You can't really engage with your life in a personal way if you're constantly like that. So opening the door, opening that gate completely, allowing it to devour you, becoming that gatekeeper, and then as you move forward, you can tap back into that. And you can choose what intensity you want to tap into it with. Like you said about the venom, you can let all the venom out, or you can let out as much as you want.
The order of operations of these gatekeepers is genius. And when it came to me, I just kind of like scribbled it down on paper. I'm really good. One of the things I'm really good at is listening. These beings will talk, and I'll hear them, and I'll hear them and listen to them just enough to write down what they say, and then I'll go fact check it later. I'll do my research later, but I don't question it in the moment. They speak, and I fucking listen. I've learned that, and so they said, here's the order of operations. And you go from Belial being the worthless one and an underworld entity to the exact opposite, Amаймon, that is the black sun and is the king. He's the master, and they do tend to put you in one extreme and then the exact opposite extreme. One extreme, the exact opposite extreme, and so it does. It's like it is a roller coaster. You're on a roller coaster like no other. So here's an interesting question that somebody put to me about this, because it's not like, I'm going to be straight. You never close the gate. Like, the gate does not close. As long as you are drawing breath, the gate is open for you. And so I can have a conversation with someone and say, you know, and here's what Belial has to say about it. Here's what Azazel has to say about it. And then Abaddon, he has this perspective. And I was doing that with a client. They said, how can you tell the difference between them? And for me, it's just like the feeling of them. Like, I have an intimate familiarity with them. What does it feel like to you? How can you tell the difference between which is coming through you at the moment now that these gates are open?
I mean, the way that I would say that is, like, for example, if someone walks behind me, you know, just a regular person who I know who it is. You know, I know that presence, I know that ambience, I know that quintessence, the feeling, the warmth, the cold, the voice, everything. All those are key factors into that person. And it's not any difference with these entities. You know, no, it's funny because, the way that you mentioned that about, you know, a client asked you this, because a client actually asked me the exact same thing, someone who I was mentoring, you know. They said that they were working with one particular demon, and then I told them to go on to this next one, the one that we wanted to go on to. I said, right, going on to this demon next. And then this person started working with both at the same time, and they were like, well, how do I know the difference between them? I'm like, that all depends on you, really. We're not all going to be the same. For me, it's just a knowing, a feeling, you know, everything. It's the way they'll appear. It's the actual, you know, emotion of the entity, because these entities, they have an emotional resonance. You know, Belial has his own personal emotional atmosphere, as well as, yeah, I would say it's an atmosphere. I would definitely say it's an atmosphere.
And the emotion is a strong point there, where Belial has this almost a continual rage about him, like a justified rage, and so I can feel that even when he's not saying or exhibiting anything that's rageful, I can still feel that. And then Amаймon does have that like a chip on his shoulder. He is the best, and he knows he's the fucking best. Don't you dare question it. And you can feel these like personality traits coming through, and it is very, very clear. But each magician is going to experience it differently, and that is the grand key of all of this. Is you know, I'll send the when we do you know, rituals for hire, especially when we do these the gatekeeper rituals for people. I'll send the video out to people, and they'll say, "Cool, I can't wait to watch this ritual." Like, you don't just watch this ritual, man. Like, this is something you engage yourself in. You have to become intimately familiar with it. It has to be something that you do. You don't just watch it. You don't just consume it. People we've gotten, especially in the internet culture, we've gotten very used to just consuming, where it's like, okay, I'm going to consume this information. Well, you can just take the basics of that information. You don't need to overload yourself with information. Just take the basics. What do I need to do? If you can boil it down to what do I need to do, then you go experience it. And you don't just experience it in your temple. This is a shift that maybe we can talk about too. Is the ritual is just the catalyst, but then you go out into the world and let these beings come out through you. Let them drive your car as you're driving your car. Let them interact with people. Let them shake hands and make deals. Fucking letting Azazel make business deals for me has done amazing things. Letting Abaddon into my love life did some crazy things. But you let them come out in your mundane life. You're merging your mundane with the magic. Did you have any crazy experiences with that, or?
Well, working with each gatekeeper, it's the same with any path working. If I'm going to do it, then I'm going to go all the way. I probably go a little too intense sometimes, but fuck it, that's the best approach for me. So when I work with these entities, especially each gatekeeper, what I'll do is I'll try and have a connection with them the second to none, to the point where I can feel them around me 24/7. Their voice is just guiding me throughout the day, throughout the night. I mean, like you said, it follows you out of your ritual. Now, I could say, about spiritual life, mundane life, and I used to categorize it like that. I can't anymore. I can't, because that barrier isn't there. They are one in the same. And because of that, I experience it constantly. And the best thing about it is, it's like a certain gatekeeper will step forward in my life throughout the day, when I'm doing whatever I've got to do, and the perfect one will come for the perfect situation. It's not like just the one that I'm working with at that particular time. If Abaddon needs to come into my life and I need his influence, he's there. There was no calling of him. There was no sitting in my temple, in my circle, lighting candles and incense. I needed him, and he's there. I listen to that. I feel that, and I gravitate to that, and I pull that in. Do you know what I mean? So you are becoming the gatekeeper. They are becoming you, and your life is just changing in a whole. You've got to embrace that, and when you do, some amazing things happen. Really amazing.
So it's interesting because working with Baal, I didn't. It was like there was no ritual. Well, there were a couple rituals that I was taught, but for the most part, it was like physical action. You need to go out and take physical action to build your empire, to build your kingdom, to become a king. And I was like, well, where's the magic? He's like, that is the magic. Every act you do is the magic. And then now Asmodeus comes in and throws a different angle in there where he's like, you combine them. So I drive a lot. I'm always driving and traveling to go do this, that, or the other. And I started becoming very aware of the fact that we're not just in this physical world, and this physical world is not separate from the energetic world. They're the same. And so as I'm driving, if I see that I need to slow down, before I hit the brake, I actually, usually with my left hand still on the steering wheel, I'll take my right hand, I'll grab momentum, and I'll pull it physically and pull it back, just like I'm pulling the reins of a horse. And my car just starts slowing down. All of a sudden, the momentum slows down. And then when I've avoided whatever I needed to avoid or whatever, then I fling it back forward, and fucking, it's like I can feel the actual resistance all the time. Like, I'm sure I look like a madman, and that's okay. And that was actually another point that I wanted to touch on, was the insanity of it. But when I'm walking around this world just fucking grabbing shit and pulling energy, I'll start to catch, this is something Beelzebub connected me with, is I'll catch these like flashes of people. Sometimes it's clients, sometimes it's coworkers, sometimes it's people I've never met before that I'll see their face flash in my mind, and I'll get a message, something that they need to know. And so I'll just say, hey, I see the pain you're going through, and I'm with you. You're not alone. And I'm saying this to myself alone. Like, I'll be walking through a bookstore and I'll be talking to people that nobody else can see. I can't even see them. They're just flashing in my mind. I'm going, I need to just work with this as if it's real, because it is very fucking real. And then I've had sometimes those very people contact me right away and they're like, hey, I could feel something coming from you and whatever, you know, there's that validation. But what I had to learn to get to that point, or what I had to realize, is that I have to stop being afraid of being crazy. And there is that fear of like, what if I lose myself? What if I go too far? What if I can't come back from this? And I'm going to tell you, you can't come back from this. You cannot go back to who you used to be. It's impossible. You do have to go crazy. And crazy is basically that you are no longer part of society. Society that no longer understands you. And that's okay. Those are the people that innovate. Those are the people that create something new. Because as long as you're stuck in the herd mentality, you're not going to create anything new. So yeah, that embrace of insanity is that was hard for me, because you know there is that desire to fit in, the desire to belong and to be accepted. And the reality of it is, we're not part of the society. We will not be accepted by them ever. Like no matter how much we try, dude. I put on the business suit, and people get even more scared of me. All of a sudden, like they're like, now you really don't fit in. Now that you're trying to fit in, now we really don't trust. And now you say you kind of grappled with your own insanity, your own mental illnesses along the way. What are some of the things that you've learned about being able to embrace that?
Through working through all this, I had to understand that there are insanity is required. That you know evil is required, chaos is required. All these things that you know we look down on and we think they are necessarily evil and bad, they are necessary, especially in this world. You know, so the way that I started looking at it was, well, if this is a massive critical point that I'm always reaching in my ascent, and I'm always resisting, and then I'm always trying to get around it, why don't I do the opposite? Because I'm being pulled to it for a reason. It's a reoccurring theme. You know, we're always being pulled to these negative parts of ourselves, these dark parts of ourselves, the shadow aspect. Why not dive into it? And that's what I always do. I just dive into it because you start to learn a lot about yourself, you know, as you dive into the darker aspects. You know, when I was depressed and I was struggling with depression, you know, very deeply, to the point of you know, suicidal, to the point of not leaving the house, to the point of not wanting to sleep, I dived into that. I instead of fighting it, I was like, okay, why am I depressed? What is this? Understand the disease, and then you can cure it. And you can also pull that disease out, and you can wield it as an actual power source. That which destroys can also create. People need to understand that you know, if something affects something negatively, it also can do the reverse. Just like Bill's about, he can. The way that what I call him is the dark defiler. He is a dark defiler, that he defiles something, and through that defilement, you can leave it defiled. You know, if someone's coming at you and you want to use this in a painful way, leave that motherfucker defiled and leave him in a constant cycle of decay. Or if something inside of you is really decaying and something is going bad, fall into that sickness, become a part of that, swim within it, and then you'll understand it, and then you'll wield it. I think it's important to understand not just the positive aspects of life, but all the negative too, because the more understanding that you have of it, the more control you're gonna have over it. And also, like when I say control, I don't mean that you're gonna always be in a constant state of control. Sometimes you've got to let things take you. Sometimes you have to follow that. But the way that I would put it is, I embraced my insanity because embracing my insanity meant that I was embracing the limitless aspect of myself.